Morning, it's Graham Healy from the Truth blog, Graham Healy's prophetic and political blog, formerly or still The Voice, and also still Rise Up Australia, Brisbane 2025. So those who don't know me, I was a former lead Senate candidate for Queensland for Rise Up Australia, Brisbane under Daniel Nyala, another prophetically gifted man of God. And today's quick chat, I suppose, is number one, we've got to put Australia first, of course. And the current government's putting Australia last. They're putting their woke agendas first. And it seems that it is controversial to think for yourself. It seems it is controversial to think for yourself. In Australia, with the communists in charge, that means the Albanese government, we really need to have a double D and a referendum on free speech. You can see the Liberal Party's completely fallen apart. Why? Well, they've got no leadership. Secondly, they were trying to run light Labor. So the woke in the Liberals had taken over. They had backstabbed all the decent people or the decent Liberals, and they've got what they deserved. The Titanic going down and crashing and burning rather rapidly under Susan Ley. She should go and join the Greens or someone like that. And they just jumped on board with, after Bondi, they jumped on board with a few chest-beating statements, which admittedly was better than the pro-Hamas Labor government. But and when I say pro-Hamas, they signed the Palestinian Recognition Agreement, and Hamas rules Gaza, or Palestine as they call it, which is really not a state at all. It's just an area of land taken over by terrorists basically. And yep, that's it. So when Albanese signed that, he also signed his political I won't say death warrant, but metaphorically speaking, his political demise. Same with Keir Starmer, same with Macron, and same with Carney in Canada. They're all gone. They'll go like dominoes very, very shortly. As a matter of fact, Carney's on the way out now. Nigel Farage will be the future Prime Minister very shortly, I believe this year. Now, in Australia, it is impossible for us to suffer another 2 years under Albanese. I mean, if another 2 years under Albanese, will be a complete Islamic state here in Australia. So this must stop, and it must stop now. The only way to stop it is have a double D, double disillusionment, and a referendum on free speech. So that's the two key elements that I've been talking about on this blog and on, Rise Up Australia, Brisbane 2025 since the last election, actually. So that's the only solution. We've got to completely dissolve Parliament and restart from scratch. Now, Pauline Hanson's doing a good job. She's the wrecking ball and the voice, in a movie. I haven't seen the movie that's come out, but I'm quite certain that'll be entertaining as well. And of course, the lead person in all of that is Donald J. Trump, and he's reforming the whole global agenda. And he has to do that, and he's got a godly mandate to do it. He's basically like a Cyrus in biblical Cyrus, where Cyrus released the Jews back to Jerusalem to rebuild the temple in Jerusalem. Now, on the bigger picture, just mentioning that, I won't take long on this one. The bigger picture is this. You had Klaus Schwab and all these other characters trying to build what I call a communist global agenda in the background. They're working in tandem with communist China and even Russia, although, Russia's got its good points, I suppose, in certain respects. At least Putin, hasn't squashed Christianity over in Russia. So they're pretty staunch Orthodox Christians in certain respects. And I mean, there are negative respects as well, as they're a communist government, and there's a lot of pros and cons for different forms of government. Certainly communist government, there isn't many pros. But then when we look at the Western society, they claim to be Judeo-Christian, and the woke agenda has completely destroyed Western society. And then you've got the big spectre in the background, which is Islam. Islam's objective through what they read and preach and everything else is to take over the Western world. They call Israel the little Satan, and they call USA the big Satan. So that's what they state in the Middle East, and that's exactly what they're all about. It's all about taking over the world. It sounds ridiculous, but that's exactly what Hitler did. And I'll remind everyone that Hitler did also form a partnership with the Turks. And the Turks were a real problem as far as trying to take over the rest of the world. And you look in history, and you can just look this plainly up. You look at the Crusades and all that. What were they? They were pushback against the Islamification of the world at that particular point in time. Islam has actually been pushing this agenda for 2,000 years that we know of. So ever since the creation of the so-called Islamic faith, which was actually after, Jesus and is relatively new sort of system or religion or whatever they call themselves after the Jewish establishment of Judaism, and a lot of the woke agendas out there, they talk about Zionists and all this sort of rubbish. At the end of the day, Zion is actually Jerusalem. Zion's the Hebrew word for Jerusalem. So that's as long and short as that is there's an interesting fact, and I'll summarize it with this. I'm not going to go on about this one, but at the end of the day, you'll notice that in Iran, there is no protests about all the Islamic regime murdering people in the streets. Nothing on the fake news, nothing on CNN. Just they don't speak about anything. Over in Nigeria, the Islamic Caliphate slaughtering literally thousands of Christians on a daily basis. Until Trump stepped in, you wouldn't even know what was going on over there. Nothing in the news. No Greta Thunberg's standing up against the slaughtering of Christians in Nigeria. So the so-called loony left, it's an interesting alliance with the loony left and Islam, actually. The loony left supports radical Islam. It's interesting, isn't it? Because if any of the loony left went to the Middle East, they'd be immediately, well, you know what would happen? Immediately, they'd be just wiped out because the Islam is totally against homosexuals and all the rest of it. So they're very, very narrow point of view, and anything outside that point of view, they just physically eliminate, including their own people leaving Islam. So it's I call it a death cult, and there's nothing people say, oh, there's moderate Muslims. Well, what there is Muslims who aren't applying what the book they're reading says. So, you just got to be so careful with it. And in the Western world, you find the Islamification of the Western world. They're moving in like Trojan horses. So you've got to be very careful. In Australia, we started to wake up about that since Bondi, but the trouble is you've got Albanese and Wong and Burqa. I call him Burqa, not Burke. They are pro-Hamas at the end of the day. They recognise so-called Palestine. By doing that, they recognise the worst terrorist group in the world, Hamas. And mind you, no one would take refugees from Gaza, and the reason is that the government in power is Hamas. They voted them in. 70% of people in Gaza believe in the terrorist agenda. So silly old Australia, Albanese wouldn't know what time of day it is, takes thousands of basically potential terrorists into Australia because you don't know. Got no way of cross-checking these people. In Egypt, who's right next door, doesn't want to take them. None of the Arab countries will take them. The reason? They know that basically from Iran, which under its regime was a headquarters of terrorism, has fed all the terrorists, the worst of the worst, are fed into Gaza. So that's why all the so-called, aid from all the gullible lefties that has gone into Gaza is basically gone into building terrorist tunnels. And then you hear, the left going on about genocide, genocide, genocide. Well, the only genocide that's happening is the objective of the terrorists especially in Gaza and other areas around the Middle East that want to eliminate Israel. And then they claim that Israel's an occupied territory. You've got to be brain dead with all this. I mean, all you've got to do is look at biblical history. It's like telling the Aboriginals Australia isn't part of their heritage. It's just ridiculous. So you've got people who can't think past the next demonstration. As a matter of fact, you've got a couple of reporters out there who are interviewing these Westerners who go into the Free Palestine marches, and they've got no idea what's happening over there. They just think there's a genocide going on, and they don't even think about the 1,200 Jews that were assassinated mercilessly for nothing. And then they think that, okay, that's all right. But as soon as the IDF go over and sort out the terrorists, and that's not all right. It's just completely hypocritical. When you look back, and I'm not going to go on about this, but you look back in every single war, right from World War One to World War Two. I mean, you can imagine how many civilians were killed in Hiroshima and Nagasaki with the atomic bomb, and that stopped World War Two. So, where's the marches on that? Were they historically thinking about that? Does Japan go on and on about that? No. They attacked Pearl Harbor, and as some of the Japanese generals said, they felt, okay, there was a win there, but they just unfortunately awoken a big bear. That's what the Japanese thought, and boy, did they cop it after there. So, from a global sense and a personal sense, everyone's got the right to self-defense. And if someone comes in and murders your whole family, which is equivalent to what happened on the 7th of October 2023 in Israel, do you think there's not retaliation for that? Do you think you're just going to sit down, well, okay, all my kids have been slaughtered, my children have been burnt, people have been decapitated. Oh, okay, well, gee, we better not fight back because we'll allow the bad guys to rule. So that's not happening, and anyone who's got a brain just realizes that this is totally morally wrong. So, the old agendas, especially with Gaza, when they talk about, oh, there's been children killed. Yes, okay, there's casualties, but the trouble is that terrorists train that whole, especially Gaza, they've trained the whole sector where they use their own children as suicide bombers. So the trouble with the woke West, they don't understand this mindset, or maybe they do understand the mindset, but they go along with it anyhow because it's against Israel. So you have a look at what's happening in Iran at the moment. Thousands upon thousands of people have been slaughtered by the Islamic regime, the Ayatollahs and all these sort of characters. Not a word, not a word. Not in Australia. You've got a couple of people demonstrating for what's going on. Not many, but you don't have thousands marching across Sydney Harbour Bridge and screaming out genocide, genocide. This is a real genocide. But the reason is there's no one speaking out, or not the loony left. It's because it's not against Israel. Simple as that. So you've got a real problem in the world today, and the real problem is woke. That's number one, because there's a spirit controlling the woke agenda. And you'll find like Albanese couldn't tell the truth. He's a complete liar. And whatever he said's a lie. Whatever he says is a twist of the truth. They can't tell the truth. Why? They have a lying spirit attached to them. And that lying spirit, you can trace that lying spirit right back to the dark side, or Satan, if you want to say that. Satan himself is the father of lies and a murderer from the beginning, as the Lord said in Matthew. You can look it up on the internet. Now, I'll just finish off with this, or we'll get close to finishing off. We really do need a double dissolution. We really can't handle, Australia can't handle another 2 years of the Albanese government, because we'll be in a Islamic caliphate by then if we allow that to happen. So Albanese will go shortly. What circumstances removes him? I don't know. My gut feeling says it possibly be another terrorist attack, but hopefully it won't be. There'll be an external event that'll force him out of government totally. If not, the Bondi event, the Bondi massacre should have forced him out of government straight away, and how he handled it or didn't handle it. There's no excuses. He's a terrorist appeaser, and his whole government are terrorist appeasers. It's just ridiculous. We've got to get rid of him. So, when will that happen? I believe August, not August, but April, May this year for a double dissolution. The Royal Commission on Terrorism must go through, but General Cosgrove's got to run that. You can't have a woke, lesbian, gay Mardi Gras so-called judge running the Royal Commission against terrorists. I mean, it's just a complete joke. Just another one of Albanese's setups in the background, twisting and lying and turning. So that's no one's got any respect for that person that Albanese's put forward. So at the end of the day, here we go. Let's see. This year is going to be change in Australia. I see One Nation's rising up. A lot of the other conservative politicians are attaching themselves to One Nation. That's a good thing until you get the Liberals reorganising under, I believe, Andrew Hastie. But first of all, it's just got to dissolve. You've got to dissolve the old Liberals, get rid of them totally. All the woke's got to go. And then you have a new generation under Andrew Hastie, I believe, and he's sitting back there. Look, he's an SAS commando. You know, he's not stupid. He's sitting back there and waiting for ground zero, basically, which is a good thing, because that way you can rebuild from zero. It's better than rebuilding with a whole lot of white ants in the system like he's put up with recently. And then, of course, you've got Gerard Rennick, who's in the background. He's got the the blueprint for the financial revolution of Australia, back to sovereignty. So I'll finish on this. This is what's going to happen. I believe a double dissolution, referendum on free speech. I believe that'll happen this year. Then you'll have there'll be a rising up of a new generation. One Nation will be part of that. Personally, I don't see Pauline as Pauline's doing a good job, but I don't see her as Prime Minister. I see Josh Frydenberg rising up as being Prime Minister. But of course, Pauline's team will have a huge, let's say, representation in the Senate. But I think Australia's governance will be different. I don't know whether we'll completely change the way we do things, whether or not we go the way of republic like the US. Perhaps that might be the way to go for Australia. I don't know. But what I do know, it's going to be very different when we have a double dissolution. The whole system's going to change. And, I'm looking forward to that because the old system hasn't worked. So, I'm looking forward to Nigel Farage as future PM of UK. And I just love what Trump's doing. I think Trump will get another term. Believe it or not, because of being robbed from the second term. He just got robbed in that area. That was all those postal votes, and it was a big scam actually. So I think by default, legally, he should get another term, and then he's reconstructing the whole global agenda, which is fantastic. And Australia, to make Australia first, we've really got to realign what we're doing with what Trump's doing, and we've got to realign and reconnect the Israeli connection, because they're the only ones that are pushing back on terrorists, I'll guarantee you that, and they're experts at it. So that's Graham Healy, the Truth blog on the 1st of February 2026. Have a great day, and Jesus is Lord. I'll throw that one in for those believers. Foundationally, we are a Judeo-Christian country, and we've got to get back to those principles in mass to save Australia. Okay? Amen. Okay. Graham Healy over and out. Have a great day.